before midnight arrives, before the final numbers are counted down, before fireworks tear open the sky like artificial stars. There was a time when humanity did not celebrate the new year. They feared it. They believed the year did not simply end. It collapsed. And when it collapsed, the universe held its breath. Ancient people stood at the edge of time, believing that, for one night, the rules that held the world together could fail. The sun might not return. Crops might rot in the ground. The dead might refuse to stay buried. Gods might turn their backs. Evil might walk freely among the living. The new year was not a promise of hope. It was a test of survival. What you call celebration today was once a desperate ritual against extinction. And here is the unsettling truth. You are still participating in it. The loud noises you make, the fire you ignite, the promises you whisper to yourself, the sudden urge to become better overnight. None of it is new. It is ancient fear, disguised as joy. This video is not here to ruin your celebration. It is here to reveal what has been hidden beneath it for thousands of years. Because traditions do not vanish. They evolve. They wear masks. They wait patiently until no one remembers why they exist. For most of history, the new year was a dangerous threshold, a liminal space where time itself was unstable. People believed that during this transition, the boundary between order and chaos weakened, between gods and humans, between the living and the dead. This was the night when fate could be rewritten or erased entirely. Kings trembled on this night. Empires held their breath. Ordinary people prayed not for happiness, but for survival. Blood was spilled not out of cruelty, but out of terror, because blood meant life, and life was the only currency the gods accepted. Fires were lit not to celebrate, but to push back the darkness. Noise was made not for entertainment, but to scare unseen forces away. And when the year finally turned, it was not relief that people felt, it was exhaustion, because they had survived time itself. So why should you listen to this story now? Because the modern world has not escaped these fears. It has simply renamed them. We still fear the future. We still fear judgment. We still fear wasted time. We still fear becoming irrelevant, forgotten, unfinished. The new year has become a psychological courtroom where we put ourselves on trial. We confess our failures. We make promises we do not fully understand. We swear loyalty to a future version of ourselves we may never become. And when we fail, as humans always do, guilt replaces hope. This cycle did not begin with self-help culture. It began with ancient gods who demanded obedience, with empires that used calendars to control populations, with religions that turned time into a moral weapon. Understanding the dark history of the new year is not about the past. It is about recognizing the invisible forces that still shape your present, because time has never been neutral. Time has always disciplined humanity. It decides when you work, when you rest, when you celebrate, and when you repent. It tells you when you are late, when you are behind, when you have wasted your life. It creates urgency, anxiety, fear of falling behind an invisible schedule you never agreed to. The new year is the most powerful symbol of this control, and yet we welcome it. If you are listening to this narration, it means you sense that something about our traditions feels deeper, darker than we are to believe. It means you are not satisfied with surface-level history. You want to know what lies underneath the rituals we repeat without question. If that is the case, then this channel is meant for you. Here, we do not tell comforting stories. We tell true ones. Stories about forgotten beliefs, suppressed fears, and the hidden psychology of civilizations. Stories that explain not just what humans did, but why they did it. If you value this kind of knowledge, If you are drawn to dark history, pagan memory, Gothic narration, and the uncomfortable truths behind familiar traditions, then subscribe, not for entertainment alone, but for awareness. Because once you see these patterns, you cannot unsee them. And before we move deeper into this darkness, I want to ask you something, not as a narrator, but as a fellow human standing at the edge of another year. As this year dies, what are you actually leaving behind? Is it a habit, a fear, a version of yourself shaped by expectations that were never yours? And what are you carrying forward? Another resolution whispered into the void? Or a quieter understanding of who you truly are? Tell me in the comments. Because even that act, sharing intentions at the turn of the year, is an ancient ritual older than language itself. In the chapters that follow, we will trace this fear back to its origin. We will walk into ancient civilizations where gods ruled time, where kings were humiliated to keep the universe in balance, where blood renewed the year, and where survival depended on rituals performed perfectly. We will move through empires, medieval nightmares, Victorian superstition, and finally arrive at the modern world, where the darkness has not disappeared, only learned how to smile. This is not a story of hope. It is a story of humanity standing in the dark, lighting fires, and praying that time will spare them for one more year. The descent begins now. And the first step takes us back to where the new year was not celebrated. It was feared. Chapter 1. Origins of New Year in Ancient Civilizations. Long before calendars were printed, before clocks ruled human life, before time was imagined as a straight line moving forward, ancient civilizations understood time very differently. To them, time did not advance, it returned. It circled endlessly like the seasons, like the moon, like birth and death itself. Nothing truly ended. Everything came back. And because of this belief, the new year was not seen as a beginning filled with optimism, but as a dangerous rupture in the cosmic cycle. The turning of the year was believed to be a moment when time weakened, when order loosened its grip, when the universe briefly forgot its own rules. Ancient people feared that if the cycle failed to renew itself correctly, chaos, the same chaos that existed before creation, could return. Darkness, famine, war, and extinction were not abstract ideas. They were real possibilities, waiting beyond ritual failure. The new year was not a celebration of progress. It was a defensive act against collapse. Among the earliest civilizations to formalize this fear were the Babylonians, nearly 4,000 years ago. For them, the new year did not arrive in winter darkness, but in spring, when nature itself appeared to awaken. Yet even this season of rebirth carried deep anxiety. The Babylonians believed the universe had been created through a violent struggle between order and chaos, and that this struggle was never truly over. Each year, it had to be reenacted and resolved again. This belief took form in the Akitu festival, one of the oldest recorded New Year rituals in human history. For days, the city entered a state of ritual tension. Ordinary life paused. Prayers echoed through temples. Statues of gods were carried through streets. At the center of this cosmic drama stood Marduk, the chief god, the divine force of order, who had once defeated chaos itself. But Marduk's victory was not permanent. Each year it had to be renewed through human obedience, humility, and fear. The new year, in Babylonian belief, was the moment when Marduk's power was tested. If the rituals were performed correctly, order would prevail for another year. If not, chaos would spill back into the world. Floods would destroy crops, enemies would rise, disease would spread. The gods were not distant observers. They were active judges, watching humanity's performance with merciless attention. No one felt this fear more intensely than the king. In modern imagination, kings represent stability and authority. But during the Babylonian New Year, the king was stripped of both. He was brought before the priest of Marduk, his crown removed, his royal symbols taken away. In a world where kings ruled by divine right, this was not symbolic humiliation. It was cosmic vulnerability. For a moment, the king ceased to be king. He was forced to confess his failures, his sins, his inadequacies as a ruler. Then came the most disturbing part. The priest struck him across the face. If the king wept, it was a good sign. Tears meant humility. Tears meant the gods were still listening. But if he did not cry, if his eyes remained dry, it was feared that Marduk had rejected him, and with him the entire civilization. This ritual was not cruelty for spectacle. It was fear made visible. The king's body became a stand-in for the fate of the nation. His suffering reassured the gods that humans remembered their place in the cosmic hierarchy. Power in the ancient world was never permanent. It had to be earned again each year through submission. Behind these rituals lay a deep psychological reality. Ancient people lived with constant uncertainty. Crops depended on unpredictable weather. Disease had no explanation. War could arrive without warning. Survival itself was fragile. The new year concentrated all these anxieties into a single moment of reckoning. It was a night when people believed the future was not random, but judged. The rituals gave fear a structure. They transformed uncertainty into ceremony. They offered the illusion that chaos could be controlled if humans obeyed correctly, if they performed the right actions, if they humbled themselves before unseen powers. This was not blind superstition. It was an early form of psychological survival. To fail the ritual was to invite disaster. To succeed was not joy, but relief. And this is the truth that modern celebrations have forgotten. The new year was never about happiness. It was about continuity, about making sure the world did not end quietly while humans slept. Even today, the shadow of this belief remains. We may no longer fear Marduk or ancient chaos gods, but we still approach the new year with confession, promises, and anxiety. We still believe that something must be corrected, that something must be renewed, that time itself demands accountability. The ancient world did not celebrate the new year because it was hopeful. They faced it because they were afraid. And that fear, older than civilization itself, still waits for us at the edge of every year. Chapter 2. Sacrifice and blood rituals at the turn of the year. When ancient civilizations stood at the edge of a dying year, they did not ask what they would gain from the future. They asked what the future would demand from them. And more often than not, the answer was blood. In the ancient imagination, blood was not merely a physical substance. It was life itself made visible, warm, flowing, finite. Where blood was spilled, life was transferred. And at the turning of the year, when time was believed to weaken, fracture, or even pause, life had to be offered back to the forces that governed existence. Renewal did not come freely. It had to be paid for. To ancient people, the universe was not kind or automatic. It did not renew itself out of generosity. The sun rose because it was persuaded to rise. The seasons returned because they were ritually commanded to return. And blood was the most powerful language humans believed they could speak to the gods. It carried intention, fear, obedience, and desperation all at once. The new year was the moment when this language became unavoidable. Across early civilizations, sacrifice was understood as purification. The old year had accumulated pollution, moral failure, broken oaths, unfulfilled duties, unseen sins. These impurities threatened to poison the coming cycle. Blood, because it symbolized pure life force, was believed to cleanse what words could not. When blood touched the ground or the altar, it absorbed human guilt and carried it away into the divine realm. This is why sacrifice was not random violence. It followed strict rules. Specific animals were chosen. Specific gestures were performed. Every movement mattered, because a mistake could anger the gods instead of appeasing them. The new year was not forgiving. It was precise. Animal sacrifice became the most widespread expression of this belief. From Mesopotamia to Rome, from early Europe to parts of Asia, animals were offered at the threshold of the year because they represented controlled life, valuable, useful, yet subordinate to humans. Bulls, goats, and sheep were among the most commonly sacrificed, not only because of their availability, but because of their symbolic weight. Bulls represented strength and fertility. Goats were associated with vitality and transgression. Sheep symbolized obedience and innocence. To sacrifice such animals was to surrender wealth, labor, and sustenance. It hurt, and that pain mattered. Sacrifice that did not cost something was believed to be meaningless. The gods were not impressed by convenience. They demanded proof of loyalty. In Rome, sacrifices marked January as a month of obligation rather than celebration. Blood was offered so that the empire might expand, crops might grow, and enemies might remain weak. The new year was inseparable from power. Sacrifice aligned divine favor with political ambition. Time itself became a military ally. In early European societies, sacrifice often took place at sacred groves, stone circles, or crossroads, places believed to exist between worlds. The animal's death was thought to seal a bargain between humans and unseen forces. Protection in exchange for obedience, survival in exchange for submission. But there were moments in history when animal blood was considered insufficient, when fear reached its highest intensity, during droughts, plagues, eclipses, or the collapse of empires. Some cultures believed that time itself demanded a greater offering, not symbolic life. In parts of Mesoamerica, particularly among the Aztecs, the new year and other calendrical transitions were deeply tied to human sacrifice. This was not because these civilizations were uniquely cruel, but because their understanding of time was brutally literal. They believed the sun required nourishment to continue its journey across the sky. If it was not fed, it would stop. And if the sun stopped, existence would end. Human blood, rich with consciousness and breath, was considered the most potent fuel for cosmic survival. The sacrifice of a human heart was not seen as murder, but as participation in the maintenance of the universe. To refuse sacrifice was not moral superiority, it was suicidal defiance. Time, in this worldview, was alive, hungry, unforgiving. These rituals reveal something deeply unsettling about humanity's relationship with the new year. At its core, the new year was not a moment of optimism, but of moral testing. Would people obey the gods even when obedience was terrifying? Would they surrender what they loved in exchange for continuity? Would they accept that survival came at a cost? Fear-driven obedience shaped entire civilizations. People did not sacrifice because they were ignorant. They sacrificed because uncertainty was unbearable. The ritual gave shape to fear. It turned helplessness into action. By offering blood, people believed they were not waiting passively for disaster. They were actively preventing it. The new year became a judgment day before judgment existed, a rehearsal for apocalypse, a moment when loyalty was measured not by belief, but by sacrifice. And the most powerful aspect of these rituals was not the blood itself, it was collective participation. Everyone knew what was at stake. Everyone understood the rules. The new year was a shared confrontation with mortality. No one escaped it. Kings, priests, farmers, warriors, all were bound by the same terror of time running out. Over centuries, as religions changed and empires fell, these practices were softened, symbolized, and eventually condemned. Blood was replaced with candles. Sacrifice became prayer. Altars became calendars. But the structure remained. Even today, traces of this logic survive. We still believe the new year demands something from us. We still feel compelled to offer proof of change, discipline, self-denial, effort, suffering. We still treat failure as moral weakness. We still fear that if we do not improve, the future will punish us. The gods may no longer demand blood, but time still demands compliance. The ancient world understood something modern culture tries to hide, that the new year has always been an act of negotiation between humans and uncertainty. Sacrifice was simply the most honest expression of that truth. It acknowledged that existence is fragile, that order is temporary, and that survival has never been free. At the turn of the year, ancient people did not ask for happiness. They asked for permission to continue, and they paid for that permission in blood. Chapter 3. Roman New Year and the god Janus. When the Roman world approached the new year, it did not do so with celebration, warmth, or innocence. It approached it with discipline and calculation. Because for Rome, time was never neutral. Time was authority. Time was order. Time was power. And at the center of this controlled vision of time stood one of the most unsettling gods of the ancient world, Janus. Janus was unlike any other Roman deity. He did not rule the sky like Jupiter, nor the underworld like Pluto. He ruled moments, thresholds, transitions. He was the god of doors, gates, beginnings, and endings. Most disturbingly, he possessed two faces. One looked endlessly backward into the past, and the other stared relentlessly forward into the future. Janus saw what had been done and what was yet to come, and this made him terrifying. There was no hiding from him. The past could not be erased, and the future could not be avoided. This is why the Romans dedicated the beginning of the year to Janus. January was not chosen because it was joyful or hopeful, but because it represented control over transition. To begin the year was to stand at a gate, and Janus was its guardian. Every new cycle required his permission. Every beginning demanded accountability. Unlike earlier civilizations that feared the new year as a moment when chaos might return, Rome sought to dominate that fear. The Romans believed that chaos could be controlled through structure, ritual, and authority. Time itself became a system, regulated, organized, and enforced. The new year was not a spiritual mystery to be endured, but a political mechanism to be managed. January quickly became one of the most important months in the Roman calendar, not because people rested, but because the empire prepared. This was the time when magistrates took office, and power was officially renewed. Authority did not drift forward naturally. It had to be reasserted. The turning of the year provided the perfect moment to legitimize command, reinforce hierarchy, and remind citizens of their obligations. Military life was deeply tied to the new year. Campaigns were planned. Troops were organized. Supplies were calculated. The future of conquest was not left to chance. It was synchronized with the calendar. In Rome, war did not simply erupt. It was scheduled. The new year marked the moment when expansion could officially begin, when violence could be framed as destiny rather than aggression. In this way, the Roman New Year became inseparable from empire. Time itself marched alongside the legions. The calendar did not merely record Roman power, it enabled it. By controlling when the year began, Rome controlled when action was justified. But the influence of Janus did not stop at politics and war. It extended deeply into moral life. The new year was a moment of judgment, and Janus was its silent witness. Romans believed that promises made at the beginning of the year carried extraordinary weight. These were not casual resolutions or hopeful intentions. They were vows, sacred commitments made under the gaze of a God who remembered everything. To swear an oath in January was to bind oneself not only to the state, but to time itself. Janus's backward-facing gaze ensured that past failures were never forgotten, while his forward-facing gaze demanded fulfillment. A broken promise was not simply a personal failure. It was a moral offense. It signaled weakness, unreliability, and disrespect toward divine order. This belief created a culture of accountability rooted in fear rather than hope. The new year forced individuals to confront their past actions and future responsibilities at the same time. There was no clean slate. The past followed you, and the future waited impatiently. This is the forgotten origin of what we now call New Year resolutions. In the Roman world, such promises were not about personal growth or emotional renewal. They were about loyalty and discipline. To fail was not human. It was dangerous. Because Janus did not forgive easily, the new year thus became a psychological pressure point. Romans were trained to measure themselves against time. Who had fulfilled their duties? Who had broken faith? Who had grown weak? These questions were not philosophical. They shaped reputation, honor, and power. Time itself became a moral authority. Behind this moral structure lay a darker reality. The Roman New Year was not simply about order. It was about domination. Rome did not rule through force alone. It ruled through systems that made obedience feel natural. The calendar was one such system. By organizing time, Rome organized behavior. Citizens learned when to work, when to rest, when to obey, and when to prepare for war. This control extended far beyond Rome itself. As the empire expanded, Roman time expanded with it. Conquered peoples were not only forced to accept Roman law and Roman rule, they were forced to accept Roman time. Indigenous calendars were replaced. Sacred cycles were disrupted. Local rhythms were erased. To live under Rome was to live according to Rome's calendar. The new year thus became a tool of cultural domination. It marked the renewal of Roman authority not only over land, but over memory and expectation. The future was no longer imagined freely. It was structured by imperial design. Even peace was shaped by this logic. The famous gates of Janus's temple were closed only when Rome was not at war. But peace itself was achieved through conquest. Violence created order, and order justified further violence. The cycle was endless, and time recorded it as progress. What makes this history unsettling is how deeply it still resonates. Rome is gone. Janus no longer stands at temple gates, and yet the structure he represented remains. January still begins the year for much of the world. We still feel compelled to look backward with regret and forward with obligation. We still believe the new year demands improvement, discipline, and proof of worth. We no longer swear oaths to Janus, but we still punish ourselves for broken promises made at the beginning of the year. We still feel watched by time. We still measure our lives against calendars, deadlines, and milestones we did not choose. The Roman achievement was not inventing these anxieties, it was organizing them. By embedding power into time, Rome created a system so effective that it survived the empire itself. The calendar outlived the legions. The discipline outlived the gods. Janus no longer has a face in stone, but he exists in the modern mind. One face whispers reminders of past failure. The other demands future performance. Together, they create a constant state of pressure that defines how we experience the new year. The Roman New Year was never about renewal in the human sense. It was about reinforcement of authority, hierarchy, obedience, and expansion. It taught humanity that time could be controlled, weaponized and used to shape behavior more efficiently than force ever could. And as the year turns once again, as promises are made and forgotten, as pressure replaces hope, the legacy of Janus remains. Time still watches, time still judges, and time still serves power. In the next chapter, this control over time will give way to fear. Empire will collapse into uncertainty. Gods will be replaced by demons. And the new year will become a night when the world believes evil itself walks freely among the living. The darkness deepens. Chapter 4. Medieval Europe, Demons, Witches, and Liminal Time. When the Roman Empire collapsed, it did not leave behind peace. It left behind uncertainty. Roads crumbled, authority fractured, knowledge faded into monasteries and shadows. And as political order weakened, fear rushed in to fill the silence. In medieval Europe, the new year was no longer a moment controlled by empire or law. It became something far more dangerous, a night when the world itself was believed to slip out of alignment. Medieval people did not experience time as modern humans do. Time was not mechanical, predictable, or safe. It was unstable, fragile, and deeply spiritual. The turning of the year was understood as a moment of liminality, an in-between state where one reality dissolved and another had not yet fully formed. The old year was dead, but the new one had not yet taken hold. And in that gap, medieval Europeans believed anything could happen. This was the most dangerous kind of time. During liminal moments, the rules that governed nature and morality were believed to weaken. The barriers between worlds thinned. Order loosened its grip. The universe hesitated. And when the universe hesitated, medieval people believed that dark forces took advantage. The new year was one such moment. It was believed that during this transition, the natural hierarchy established by God could temporarily fracture. The living and the dead might cross paths. Humans might encounter beings they were never meant to see. The past could return, and the future could turn hostile. Time itself was no longer trustworthy. This fear was not abstract. It was lived. Medieval Europe was a world shaped by constant threat, failed harvests, unpredictable weather, war, disease, and sudden death. There was no scientific explanation for plague or famine. When crops failed, it was not chance. It was punishment. When disease spread, it was not bacteria. It was divine wrath or demonic interference. And the new year, standing between life cycles, became the moment when such punishments were believed to be decided. People feared that demons roamed freely during this night. Creatures from hell, released temporarily from divine restraint, were believed to wander the earth seeking souls. Darkness was no longer just the absence of light, it was presence. A presence watching, whispering, waiting. Witches, too, were believed to gain power during this liminal time. Medieval belief held that witches drew strength from disorder, from moments when divine protection weakened. The new year, balanced between years, was thought to amplify their magic. Curses were more effective, spells more dangerous, bargains with dark forces easier to make. This belief did not emerge from imagination alone. It was reinforced by the church itself, which taught that evil was not symbolic, it was active. Satan was not a metaphor. He was an enemy engaged in constant warfare with God for human souls. And during moments of transition, humans were believed to be especially vulnerable. Ghosts of the dead were also feared during the new year. Medieval people believed that souls who had not properly passed into the afterlife, those who died suddenly, violently, or without confession, could wander back into the world of the living. The new year, marking death and rebirth of time itself, was thought to summon these restless spirits. This is why medieval ghost stories often center on winter nights, bells, and year transitions. These were not stories meant to entertain. They were warnings. The dead were not at rest, and neither was time. To protect themselves, medieval Europeans turned to ritual, not celebration, but defense. The new year required protection because it was not safe. Loud noises were one of the most common responses. Bells were rung violently. Metal was struck. Shouting filled the air. These sounds were believed to disrupt supernatural beings, disorient demons, and frighten away wandering spirits. Silence was dangerous. Noise meant survival. Fire was another powerful defense. Bonfires were lit at crossroads, village edges, and hilltops. Fire represented divine light pushing back chaos. It was believed to cleanse space, burn away evil, and restore order to the broken fabric of time. The warmth of fire was not comfort. It was protection. Church bells rang throughout the night, not to mark celebration, but to assert divine presence. The ringing was believed to sanctify time itself, forcing it back under God's control. Priests performed blessings on homes, fields, and livestock, asking for protection in the uncertain year ahead. Yet even as the church attempted to dominate these rituals, pagan customs persisted beneath Christian language. Herbs were hung over doorways. Iron objects were placed near beds. Protective symbols were drawn in ash or chalk. These practices came from older belief systems that Christianity could not fully erase. Medieval Europe lived in a constant state of spiritual contradiction. Official doctrine preached salvation, while folk belief practiced survival magic. The new year became the night when both systems collided. This collision intensified cultural anxiety. Medieval people feared famine because hunger was common. One failed harvest could mean death. They feared plague because it arrived without warning and spared no one. They feared war because borders were unstable and violence unpredictable. They feared hell because eternal punishment was preached as certainty. And above all, they feared that the new year would bring judgment. The end of one year and the beginning of another was a moral reckoning. Had one lived righteously? Had sins been confessed? Had God been angered? The future was not open. It was already decided, waiting to be revealed. This created a culture of paranoia. People watched their neighbors. Accusations of witchcraft flourished during times of crisis. Misfortune demanded explanation, and explanation demanded blame. The new year, already feared, became a focal point for suspicion. If a child died shortly after the year turned, someone must be responsible. If livestock fell ill, someone must have cursed them. If storms destroyed crops, someone must have offended God. Fear needed targets. The medieval New Year thus became a psychological battlefield. People were caught between hope and terror, prayer and superstition, faith and fear. They wanted protection, but they did not know from whom. This is why medieval celebrations feel so dark when viewed through modern eyes. They were not naive. They were desperate. The new year was a night when the world felt thin, when reality itself seemed fragile. A night when people believed they stood unprotected between what had been and what might come. It was not a beginning, it was a threshold, and thresholds were always dangerous. What makes this chapter of history so unsettling is how deeply it shaped Western imagination. The images of witches flying at night, demons whispering in darkness, bells ringing through cold air, fires burning against unseen threats. These are not fantasies. They are cultural memories of a time when the future was genuinely terrifying. And even now, echoes remain. We still light fireworks to push back darkness. We still make noise at midnight. We still fear what the new year might bring. We still seek protection through ritual, resolution, and belief. The medieval world did not invent fear of the new year. It inherited it. And then, surrounded by uncertainty, disease, and death, it intensified it. Empire had once controlled time. Now fear ruled it. And in the next chapter, that fear will deepen even further, entering the Victorian age, where superstition, death obsession, and hidden pagan belief merge beneath a surface of progress and reason. The night grows longer, and the new year grows darker. Chapter 5. Omens, Death, and Fate, when the new year judged the living. There was a time when the new year was not greeted with hope, but with dread. A time when the turning of the calendar felt less like renewal and more like a verdict being passed. In villages wrapped in winter silence, people did not count seconds to midnight with excitement. They listened instead to the wind, to the fire, to their own racing thoughts, searching for signs. Because the new year, they believed, was watching them. In traditional societies across Europe and beyond, the new year was not neutral. It was moral. It judged the past and whispered the future. And nothing terrified people more than the idea that death itself might be tied to this moment. To die near the end of the year was considered one of the darkest omens imaginable. Death at this time was not just a personal tragedy. It was a cosmic disturbance. People believed that souls who died as the year ended were caught between cycles, unfinished, unsettled, unable to move forward. These were not peaceful deaths. These were dangerous ones. Such souls, it was believed, did not rest easily. The dead who crossed time's boundary at the wrong moment were feared to linger, confused and restless. Families worried that these souls might wander back, knocking in dreams, appearing as shadows, or bringing misfortune to those left behind. Death near the new year was seen as a sign that the coming year would be marked by loss, illness, or disaster. This fear was so strong that some traditions avoided burials on New Year's Day altogether, delaying rites in hopes of preventing spiritual contamination of the year ahead. The dead, though mourned, were also feared. Their timing mattered. Time itself had become sacred and unforgiving. This belief extended into dreams. New Year's Eve was considered a night unlike any other, a night when the future pressed close to the present. Dreams dreamt on this night were believed to carry prophecy, not metaphor, not symbolism, but truth. People went to sleep afraid of what they might see. A dream of abundance could mean prosperity. A dream of fire could mean war. A dream of water could mean illness or death. These dreams were recorded, interpreted, whispered about. In some traditions, young people performed rituals before sleep, placing objects under pillows, fasting, or remaining silent to invite prophetic visions. The dream was not a product of the mind. It was a message from fate. And fate, they believed, never lied. Alongside dreams came fortune-telling practices. The new year was the most powerful moment for divination because it stood at the edge of time. People melted metal into water, read patterns in wax, studied shadows cast by candles, and listened for sounds at midnight. Even accidental noises, a knock, a cry, a sudden silence, were interpreted as signs. Nothing was random. The universe, on this night, was believed to speak in code. One of the most enduring and unsettling traditions born from this worldview was first footing. As the new year began, the first person to cross the threshold of a home was believed to determine the household's fate. This was not symbolic politeness. It was destiny at the door. The identity of the first visitor mattered deeply. In many regions, a tall, dark-haired man was considered lucky, believed to bring strength, protection, and abundance. A woman, a fair-haired person, or someone associated with death or poverty could be considered disastrous. The objects the first footer carried were equally important. Coal for warmth, bread for food, silver for wealth. An empty-handed visitor was feared. These beliefs reveal something deeply psychological. The new year was experienced as fragile. The year could be broken before it even began. One wrong sign, one wrong person, one wrong moment, and the future collapsed. People did not feel in control of their destiny. They felt examined by it. Time became a moral judge, silently evaluating human worth. Had you lived well enough to deserve a good year? Had you angered unseen forces? Were you being punished or merely warned? This anxiety shaped behavior. People cleaned their homes obsessively, not just for order, but to remove spiritual residue. Debts were paid. Arguments were resolved. Apologies were forced. The belief was simple and terrifying. What you carried into the new year, you would carry for the rest of it. Emotional states mattered. Crying was avoided. Anger was suppressed. Words spoken near midnight were believed to echo forward, shaping months yet unborn. Silence itself could be dangerous, inviting dark thoughts to take root. The new year demanded performance. What makes these traditions so haunting is how clearly they expose the human fear of uncertainty. People were not afraid of time passing. They were afraid of what time might reveal. The new year stripped away the illusion of control and replaced it with judgment, signs, and fate. Even celebration was layered with fear. Laughter was sometimes forced, a defense against unseen scrutiny. Feasts were held not just to enjoy abundance, but to prove worthiness, to show the universe that one was prepared. Because if the new year found you unprepared, it would not be kind. These beliefs did not exist in isolation. They were reinforced by high mortality rates, unpredictable weather, and limited medical knowledge. When survival was uncertain, people searched desperately for meaning. Omens provided explanations. Fate offered structure. Fear gave clarity. And though centuries have passed, these anxieties have not vanished. We still fear bad starts. We still read meaning into coincidence. We still believe that the year can be ruined early on. We still treat midnight as a moment of power. The Gothic truth beneath New Year traditions is this: humanity has never trusted the future. We have always feared that time is watching us, weighing us, waiting to decide our worth. The candles have changed. The rituals have softened. But the anxiety remains. The new year is not just a beginning, it is a question. And deep down, we are still afraid of the answer. From the earliest civilizations to medieval and omen-filled worlds, the new year was never shaped by joy or optimism. It was shaped by fear. Humans believed time could fracture, gods could withdraw protection, chaos could return, and death could cross into the living world. Blood rituals, sacred vows, demon-haunted nights, prophetic dreams, and fatal omens all reveal the same anxiety. The future was dangerous, and survival was uncertain. What changed across cultures was not the fear itself, but the rituals designed to contain it. The turning of the year became a psychological test of obedience, morality, and fate. And this leaves a disturbing question. If the new year was created to protect humanity from darkness, Are we truly celebrating freedom today? Or are we still obeying ancient fears in disguise?